Hi, everybody. Good morning. You can see we're already deep in discussion here. We were just waiting for everybody to join at the top of the hour, and I'm excited about our topic today. We are going to be talking about really tech tools, how to assess what you're currently using, where there are roadblocks, a lot of good stuff. So let's give it just a minute or two more so people hop on, and then we'll turn it over to Michael to start the discussion. So thanks everybody for joining today. Big announcements while we're all waiting for folks to hop in the call. You will be getting communications from Colorado Gives Foundation from us, inviting you to participate in year 2. We are asking you to fill out a short form just because there's turnover and we want to make sure we have the most fresh data for you. So we will ask you to fill out the application for year 2, and then you will be accepted into the program. We are really excited for that. So keep an eye out for that email to come to your inbox. It's going to go to all admins associated with your Colorado Gives page. The other thing I'll just mention is that both this recording as well as last week's class are not yet up on the Level Up page, but they should be up here within the next day or two. So we'll post those both at the same time so you can take a look at that. All right. Let me include these other people who are joining in. And let's go ahead and get started. If it's okay, Michael, I'll pass it over to you to kick off the call today.
That sounds great, Jordan. Thank you so much. And hello, everybody. So nice to see you all again. So soon after our last session last week. I hope you're all having a good week. It's Tuesday, and I feel like we sometimes meet on Thursdays, sometimes meet on Tuesdays. So different energies here. We are going to be doing a learning lab today focused on the topic we talked about last time, which is tech tools for success. So we have, I hope, an exciting program, which is mostly oriented around sharing and discussion. So you can just see on the screen, if anybody from UBU Early Learning is here, we can ask them to give us an update on their situation with their van. We'll talk briefly about social media management tools, which is really just a catch up from last week because we didn't have a chance to look at those. And then we'll dig into the main event, which is sharing about different tech tools that we have. And of course, share please anytime in the Zoom chat. Elizabeth and Jordan and I get a lot out of your chat comments. And we use that to keep track of what you're up to and topics you want to be talking about, etc. So that's where we are now. Let's see, as usual, and as stated, we're being recorded and there's all this usual housekeeping stuff, which I'm sure you're all pretty familiar with, but it's good that it's here. Plus, when you get the PowerPoint deck, you'll be able to get these live links, of course. Let's see, why don't we dig in? I know there's people adding into the session. Is there anybody, I don't know if Roya has joined us today or is able to join us today. I don't think I see her, Jordan and Elizabeth, do you?
Yeah, I don't see her, okay. And I'm not seeing Javier.
That's right, and Javier. We can keep an eye on whether they join us later. I was just wanted to give them a moment to maybe talk about. Somehow I got muted there for a second.
That was me. That was me. Oh, I apologize, okay. Everybody. That was a stray click.
No problem at all. Well, we'll see if Roya or Javier join us later. We just wanted to hear an update from their situation. Why don't we dive into just a follow-up from last week about social media content management tools. We were talking last time about finding different ways to gain efficiencies in posting content. And I think we mentioned a couple of different tools that were out there, 2 brand name tools. One is Hootsuite. You can see the screenshot on the top here. And then the other one is Loomly. Yeah, I don't know either how they pick these names, but usually, they pay some expensive marketing firms to figure this sort of stuff out. But they're pretty, I mean, these are certainly the ones that I see the most commonly used in the nonprofit space. So we just want to throw this into the mix and I'll just show you just really briefly sort of the whole sort of approach. I'll just show you a couple screens from Loomly just so that you understand um, how these generally work. And they're basically they're a whole dashboard that you can use. You can see over here, you can create a calendar. You can literally book things in advance to post on social media, like literally up to a year ahead of time. There's a whole process that you go through. You can see in the central panel post overview where you can draft message. You can have them sent to approval to other people in your organization. When they're approved or scheduled, they sort of show up here. So these little numbers here on the right sort of add up. There is on the radar sort of a quick little view of like what's coming up and what's automated to post. And really what you're doing, depending on the type of channels that you're using, is that it allows you to build your posts. I'll just show you really quickly. I went into Loomly. I hadn't logged into my account in a couple of months, but I sort of make sure that my Twitter was connected. I make sure that my LinkedIn was connected. So if I'm a posting person, I'm going to focus on those two platforms. Of course, for each one of you, they may be something else. Maybe you're on Facebook or Instagram or some of these other ones. You can even do TikTok, Snapchat, some of the more video-oriented ones. And then you can build your content on the platform. This is an example of like the actual screen that you use to post the content. You schedule it by the date. You give it a subject. You can tag it with labels. You sort of select the channels that you're going to use, and then you start off with the sort of generic content. You draft something, and then I didn't screenshot every single one that's available, but it then takes you through a set of other screens. It basically knows the posting length for each channel. It might make suggestions for you like, hey, this photo is sort of low resolution, or maybe the photo is going to crop a little bit funny. If you're doing video, of course, you have to upload video. It can do all of that inside this interface. So rather than having to learn how to use Instagram over here, Facebook over here, X over here, LinkedIn over here, it gives you this one user interface that you can use. Another really good use of this is that, if you've got 2 or 3 volunteers that are helping you out, each one can have an account, login account on a platform such as Loomly. And they can all help you kind of manage your social media presence for you, which is another real, I think, benefit for nonprofits that often rely on volunteers to be able to do this stuff. I'm obviously not a salesperson for these products, nor do I get any commissions for any of this, but I will say that for like under $20 a month, you can get the basic plan from either Loomly or Hootsuite. And just inviting you to take a look at that. And thank you very much, Jordan, for a couple of those posts that you've put up there with some comparisons over here. Abby, you're making a couple comments. So this is,
Yeah, Abby was saying that she used Meta Business for Facebook and Insta. And while I know it exists and I have clicked around there, I'm not as familiar with that. I don't know if that's a point of discussion quick, or Abby, if you could hop off mute. I'd just love to hear how you're using that and if that's more efficient than whatever you were doing before.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. It's very similar to Loomly and Hootsuite, but it's just Facebook and Instagram specific, so it doesn't go out to LinkedIn or anything else. And so I'm interested in looking back I used Hootsuite a long time ago when I was an intern, so I'm interested in looking back at those, but Meta has been great for me so far in keeping Facebook and Instagram scheduled, and I kind of use it as my social media schedule to know what I want to put on LinkedIn and my other platforms. That's kind of my central place.
I think that's a really good point, Abby. I think if you're particularly invested in those 2 platforms, the Meta platforms, it might in fact make more sense to be using their own user interface to do that. The other factor, which I didn't really address right in this discussion of Loomly and Hootsuite, is that if you're doing extensive online advertising on any of these platforms, I would say Hootsuite and Loomly are not always, they're not designed really for ad management. So even though you can do all the posting that you need, and it's super great if you're just doing sort of basic social media presence, really, really terrific for efficiency. It's really not an ad management system. So if you're like needing to boost a post, or if you're literally running ads on some of these platforms, and as you all know, most of these platforms offer ad programs. You're probably going to want and need to do those on the native platforms themselves. You don't have to log in to Meta to do that directly. So that's something to be able to think about. And yes, Joel, thank you for that. Most of these platforms do have some great discounts, and you know they're always committed to getting nonprofits to use them. So hence the reason why they're very popular among nonprofits. Terrific. And just a reminder, as we just close out this topic, that there are some great resources with Catchafire that we mentioned last time. So I put this screen back up. The link is back up there as well. Everything from how to do setup, how to do audits, tips on video, and everything else. This is just a terrific set of resources. And as Jordan is reminding us, there are a couple of webinars on social media, of which one is specifically on advertising. So that is terrific. I mean, I think advertising is a pretty important way to grow visibility. I know we've talked a lot about, engagement, acquiring new supporters, new viewers, new subscribers, etc. So advertising is certainly a way to do that, to broaden your audience. Okay, I'm going to pause there to see if there's any other questions or comments on the air here, or you're welcome to put them in chat. All right, snuck in my little water break. So why don't we dive into the main event in our remaining 45 minutes. And so what we're going to do here is we are going to profile, or people are going to self-profile themselves. And we pulled a couple of your names from the chat last time. Abby, you've already said a few things today. So we're really, just interested in a very casual way, hearing from you about the choices that you and your team have made about the tech tools that you're using. And please feel free to correct this. It's our understanding that you're using Wix for your website, that you're using MailChimp for your email tool, and something called Little Green Light as your CRM, your constituent management system. Abby, do you want to join us for a few minutes on air and tell us a little about your experience with these tools?
Yeah, definitely. So these tools were put into place when I stepped into the organization. And my director was telling me our database manager really did a lot of research between Little Green Light and a lot of different ones, but she chose Little Green Light. And we use Little Green Light for everything. It's not only to track, how much someone has donated and when, but also for mailings, if we're about to promote something and want to send out postcards. It's connected to our MailChimp. So if we want to do a segmented email list, right, Little Green Light helps us do that. And we also use it. My director and I were just in Port Angeles doing some network for an event coming up. And while we're there, like, who can we talk to that lives here to ask about this or network this way? And so we Little Green Light who lives in the area, and then we'd be able to contact them and go meet with them. So I really love Little Green Light. It also helps me track, my volunteers are at this event and did this work, or employees came to this summer retreat. So it's just a wealth of knowledge for us. And we have a wonderful volunteer who keeps it very up to date. And it's very linked with MailChimp. Wix has been great for us. I actually learned Wix as an intern, so it's very natural for me to step into it with turning the wheel. And yeah, I think that's all I have for right now.
That's great. And with regard to, could you talk a little bit about how you integrate Little Green Light with the Colorado Gives tool? I mean, how do you make sure that the two are kind of kept in sync, so to speak? If someone makes a donation through the Colorado Gives, how does that donation kind of end up over in Little Green Light?
That's a great question. And I'm not quite sure if I fully know the answer to that. That's really Lori's kind of realm, but I think because she's also very in charge of our Colorado Gives admin page. So I think she has a process. And I don't know if she was able to like kind of connect the two or not. But yeah, I'll have to ask her. It's a really good question.
Okay, and I didn't mean to put you on the spot. I
Oh
just
no,
sort of
you're good.
just trying to learn there. And looks like Jordan, I know that you posted something that the connectivity between Little Green Light and Colorado Gives is done through the Zapier platform.
That's
And it may be
correct.
possible that your colleague um, Abby is using that tool or something else. So okay.
Yes, that's correct. So it's a simple integration via Zapier that as a donation comes through Colorado Gives, the platform, whether it's on a widget or through your org page donation form, it triggers, and that data not only then lives in Colorado Gives, but in your external CRM, which in this case would be Little Green Light. So it's a pretty easy process to set up the integration. But if anybody wants to learn more, we have our customer support team that can do some hand holding and show you around as far as integrations.
That's terrific. And then I have some more questions for you, Abby, just because I'm so nosy about how people use their tools. We've talked a bit on our calls about email segmentation or donor segmentation. I mean, tell us a little bit more about how Little Green Light, how you use it as a companion to MailChimp. I mean, if you say to yourself, oh, we want to email everybody on the list with an update on like our newsletter every month, or we want to email 40 people on the list, or just the donors, or just the volunteers. How have you found the ability to do that kind of segmentation and working with MailChimp?
Yeah, for sure. I have found it to be very, very fluid. So for example, we're getting ready to do a really big production in Port Angeles. So we have been really targeting our West Coast people. And LGL has region groups. So I can check the Seattle, Portland region, and I know it's going to that area. I can also set it up that if they if we went to an event like this in the past, I can check the event group, the production box, and to make sure they will get that email. And Mailchimp has made it very fluid. It's kind of right in that first editing page while you're where you schedule to send and all that. You just kind of choose what segment you want. You can ask for a region or a specific type of group. But it's always been very easy for us.
Nice, nice. And we know from our previous conversations that sounds like MailChimp is a favorite of many of you here in the cohort. So that's great. That it seems to be serving you well. Well, that's great, Abby. Anything else you want to share before we move on to our next contender, our next participant?
No, I think I'm good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Abby. Great. Okay, let's move on a little bit here. And Kristen Rockford, I think you're on the call today with Historic Route County. Do you want to spend a couple minutes sharing with us? It sounds like you are also a Little Green Light user, so be interested to hear your perspective on it as well. The website platform is WordPress. I didn't capture the email system that you're using, but I certainly invite you to share a little bit more about that. So why don't you join us on air?
Okay, sure. Good morning, everyone. We use Constant Contact, and it's been my experience with other nonprofits that I've worked for that MailChimp is better and it's less expensive. So I'm in the process of possibly switching from Constant Contact to MailChimp. I'm really impressed with that program in particular. I would like to talk a little more about Little Green Light. I've researched many CRMs in my previous capacities at other nonprofits. And in my research, I found that it's a powerhouse of a program, and it's a good price point too. I'd say it's kind of stripped down in that it doesn't have a lot of the bells and whistles and the pretty dashboard. It's just data, it's really data driven. And I don't mind that because I love a good spreadsheet. So, so for me, I enjoy what it has to offer. Couple things I just learned about Little Green Light is that, so we are going to be putting on an event May 11th, and it's a concert, a community barn dance. And I found that I could create a form on Little Green Light where people could buy tickets to the event, and that money would be purchased through the form via PayPal, and then go right into our checking account. And then I could send out invitations to our constituents from Little Green Light using my personal email address. I had to link that up, and then it would track all the people who have bought tickets. And so when they show up to the community barn dance, we could sign them in. I was really impressed with that because I was thinking I would need to use Eventbrite, which they have pretty hefty fees. And so I was pleased to learn that that was a tool that I could use in Little Green Light. Another tool I used recently was sending an end of year tax letter. So I generated the letter in Little Green Light, and then I printed off all the letters, and I printed off all the envelopes using the program Little Green Light. And then of course I had to physically mail it myself. But in the future we will do that via email with everyone that we have an email address, and then I'll put an actual letter in the mail for those that I didn't get an email address. And so that was really handy and easy to use. But speaking of the connection between Colorado Gives and Little Green Light, I did test out the Zap or Zape. How do you pronounce that?
Zapier.
Zapier.
Yeah.
Okay, so I tested out a Zape between Colorado Gives and Little Green Light, and it worked beautifully. So I went in and I donated on Colorado Gives, and it populated Little Green Light with my name and my email address and my donation and all the information that I asked it to capture. But then after that, it said, well, you can't use that anymore because Colorado Gives doesn't allow that. And so I do want to point out that you have to upgrade to the advanced level. Is that correct, Jordan, to be able to use that feature?
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yes. So the integration aspect of the platform is available in the advanced features package, which some of you in Level Up have, some of you, are just using the free option. So for those of you that don't yet have the advanced features, you would need to opt in order to access the integration. I will note, just as while we're talking about it, that there's no commitments, no contracts. If you were to subscribe to check it out, the advanced features has a free trial, and you can subscribe or unsubscribe at any time and pay monthly. So it's pretty flexible if you do want to explore that option for you. Thank you for sharing so much with us. This has been really fascinating to learn and dig in specifically to Little Green Light, because I've heard a lot of great things about it, that it's a really manageable, easy to use, and affordable CRM. It's not one that I've had a lot of experience with. So this has been great. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, and I'll echo that sentiment, Kristen. Thank you for sharing all this. It's fascinating also to see how these tools are expansive, and you can do some of this stuff over in Colorado Gives. You can do some of it in some of these CRM platforms, and so you sort of have these choices that you get to make based on sort of where the user experience might be easier for the donor or for you on the back end. But that's good that it sounds like you've really pushed the envelope with Little Green Light. So kudos to you, Kristen, and your team, and also Abby, since you're using that platform as well. Sounds like something we could return to in a future session as your expertise grows. So that's just terrific. And thank you, Athena, for mentioning in the chat room about another tip platform that you're using for ticketing, tickettailor.com. So that's great. Okay. All right. I'm just keeping an eye on the time, and we're going to move on and ask Katie Navin. Hopefully I pronounced your last name correctly there, from Colorado Alliance for Environmental Education. Looks like you're on Drupal for your website. You use CiviCRM, which we haven't had a chance to talk about, for your constituent management. You're on Constant Contact, and you're also obviously using Colorado Gives and Monday.com. So a couple of new things here for you to introduce into the group. So why don't you join us on air, Katie? Thank you.
Sure. So CiviCRM is a open source software, so it doesn't have a monthly subscription, which works well for us. It is not something that I could set up myself. So we definitely paid someone, a developer, to set it up and integrate it with our website when we first got started with it, which was over 10 years ago for sure. It handles tracking donations, contact management, event registration. We're a membership organization, so it processes all our members and sends out automated reminders, things like that. It's not one of the most common systems, so there aren't as many integrations with it for sure. So like when we use email with Constant Contact, we export our list and import it into Constant Contact. So that's an extra step. Although we are looking at changing to an email provider called Mosaico, which is a module that you build right into CiviCRM to eliminate that step. And we're kind of investigating that right now. Same with Colorado Gives. We do that manually. We download the donations that come in and we manually put them into CiviCRM. We do have our web developer will periodically pay for updates or bug fixes, which isn't very often, but just something to think about when you're using an open source software. But it works really well for us, and we have a lot of like extra data that doesn't fit into fields that are kind of pre-populated in. And so you can create a ton of different ways to capture data in different forms on your website. We run a certification program and we track all the feedback and dates for certification in there. And we were able to create like all those custom fields. We track volunteers in there, all of those types of things. Monday.com is more of a project management system, although I think there are folks who use it for contact management too. And it just works really well for us in terms of communicating across staff. To-do list. We're a remote office, so we can kind of keep track of where all of our projects and programs are. And we are a very committee-based organization. We have a lot of involvement, so we can share guest access to that. And they can have kind of their own checklists and things within Monday.com. And that they offer a free subscription for nonprofits on their pro plan. So it's easily available.
Yeah, thanks for sharing, Katie. That's so interesting to hear about your commitment to CiviCRM. I'm actually pretty familiar with the platform myself from an earlier incarnation. I got a chance to work with some of the early developers on that. So I'm always excited to meet someone who's been using the platform. Sounds like for 10 years, which is very impressive. So kudos to you and your team. And that is interesting that you're having to move some of that data manually between Constant Contact, Colorado Gives. But it sounds like, researching or using Mosaico might be a good potential solution. I mean, you wouldn't be the first organization that has to move data manually between one platform to the other. And it's definitely, pretty normal. Unfortunately, some of these automated integrations don't always work as planned, whether you're using Zapier or other types of APIs that exist out there. I mean, they sound really good in principle, but oftentimes they don't always materialize the way they want them to. So I'm giving you a lot of lot of kudos for trying to figure out a good sort of data system for your organization, and not just for you internally, but for your participants and everything else. So that's terrific. Let's see, I'm also just looking in the chat room. Juliana asks a really great question about people's process for selecting a platform. Juliana, why don't we hold that comment of yours till a little bit later, because I have a slide that I want to show you a little bit later. So hold that thought for now, and we will get to it. So thanks again, Katie. Anything else, or did you cover everything? Are you good? Okay, I see a nod. So you're good. Thank you. That was extremely interesting. Okay, Gracie Doris, let's see if you are on the call today, and you are with Shiloh Health, and we chatted a little bit. We used you as an example last time. You're transitioning from WordPress to Squarespace. I'm sure that's an exciting prospect for you. You're on MailChimp, and yeah, feel free to share a little bit about your experience with these platforms and any others, since I didn't capture anything else that you were working on. So yeah, feel free to join us on air to talk a little bit about it.
Yeah, so we currently have WordPress, but I met with Catchafire at the start of the new year, really just with the intention of them looking at our current site and helping me. I feel like it was kind of rigid and I couldn't customize everything the way I wanted to, just the version of WordPress we had. And so I met with them and just explained, some things I wanted to change and update, but that I didn't have like a coding background and didn't want to take on something I couldn't handle. And they recommended Squarespace to me, and it's been great so far. We're almost done with getting, all the info we need in there, and that's been a lot to undertake, but we should have that up and running really soon, and it's definitely more advanced and just has a different look than our current website that we're really excited about, and more donor focused than our current website is. It's more appealing and, things like that. And then, yeah, we use MailChimp and have for quite some time. We've got 2 different subscriber lists there, one strictly for volunteers in an email group, and then another one, just our general anybody that subscribes list. And then we have Salesforce that we've used as a CRM tool, but just for confidentiality reasons, we also have client information and things like that in there. So it's hard, like I don't even have access to that as a member of our team. And so I think our biggest hurdle with that has just been not everyone having access to that information. So I actually met with Jordan last week, and we're talking about, we've fully switched all of our donations through Colorado Gives and embedded that on our page. And so we're going to use, I think, the supporter tool to take notes on our communications with donors there, be tracking that information. And then we're even talking about inputting our volunteer information's profiles into Colorado Gives, just so it's all in one place. Even if they haven't necessarily donated, we still have a profile for them on there. And you can send messages through Colorado Gives on there, which is nice, and add tags if they're a volunteer, have they come to our gala or our golf and things like that. So we're in the process of doing that because we haven't had a super consistent way of tracking all of this stuff in a couple years. So it's a lot right now, but we're loving Colorado Gives and are hoping to stay consistent with that.
Thank you for sharing that, Gracie. Yeah, it does sound, Colorado Gives is obviously a terrific platform, but it's really interesting to hear your sort of evolution into using it to meet your needs in terms of constituent management. It was interesting because I know plenty of small to mid-sized nonprofits who use MailChimp as a CRM. Like they're just like, just keep everything in there. I can put things in different tags and I can do that. And so it's sort of like, it sometimes fits that kind of a need. But it's also interesting that you feel like Colorado Gives can play that role for you, which is great, because obviously there's so many tools that are sort of under the hood there that people can use and adopt. So I'm glad that that's working for you there. Jordan, you're busy posting things here. I'm trying to keep up with you. Some Catchafire project templates and some great comparisons between some of these email platforms, between Constant Contact and MailChimp. So that's great. Gracie, anything else? Yeah, well, we'll look forward to seeing your new website on Squarespace. Hopefully you'll share an announcement with the rest of the cohort so we can celebrate with you your success in doing that. It's not a trivial task to go from one platform to another platform, but I'm glad that you have a partnership with Catchafire to help you get there. So that's terrific. And yeah, and also just the integrations that you need to put into the website for, registration and the donation pages, everything else. So getting all that wired up correctly, I know can be a challenge. So good for you. Okay. And anything else, or all good? You're good. Okay, great. All right. Let's see, Heather, I think you're on the call today with our front porch, and you're also on Squarespace, which maybe you can reflect with Gracie on getting there. Also on Mailchimp and Colorado Gives. Do you want to share with us on air some of your experience with these? And feel free to also add any other platforms that you've put into the mix here that I didn't have a chance to capture.
Okay, well, thank you. We did to echo the other opinions. We had WordPress for a very long time. I found it extremely annoying and difficult to manage. So we switched to Squarespace and had someone actually build that, the website that we have now. We had somebody build that for us. So we can't take credit for building it, but I will say while we're still learning, it's a lot easier to edit than WordPress for sure. I'm still figuring it out, and as is one of my team members, Maris, who's also on this call, it's a cluster, but we muddle through, and usually there's enough help things online to figure it out. So I would say generally Squarespace has been working good for us. We do use MailChimp, and up until very recently, it's been super basic. Just we collect names. And we kind of have two different groups that we use through MailChimp. We have our clients that get basically, and we're working on an email series for them, but we've been doing it manually. We're learning the email journey, welcome journey, as we speak. So we're trying to set that up more automated, but right now we use MailChimp to send out a series of emails to our clients. And then we have like general supporter emails that go out as well. And we've been using Colorado Gives for a couple years now. And so far so good, but I think same thing, and maybe this is a question for Jordan, because we talked with Jordan recently about this. We don't really understand or use Colorado Gives as a CRM, and I don't think we really truly understand what we can use it for. So I would love some guidance or direction on that too.
Yeah, definitely. And I think we discussed, and maybe we haven't set up the meeting yet, but I think the next step for anybody who's curious about the CRM and its capabilities, we can set up a one-on-one meeting to kind of evaluate your needs and talk about the functionality of the built-in CRM in Colorado Gives. And I would typically bring in someone from Mighty Cause so they can show you a couple different examples of how it's used by different nonprofits and such. I will say it's a really nice tool. It's a very basic tool, but as Gracie said, it can really do a lot as far as direct messaging and tagging of the different contacts to capture and collect the information you need. But yes, next step, if anybody's curious, including you, Heather, is I'll connect you with someone from Mighty Cause, and I'll probably join the call too, just to make sure that we're answering all of your questions and that it's a good fit for you guys.
That would be awesome, because I know we mentioned it briefly when we talked, and it's in the back of my head of, oh, this is something we should figure out, and we just don't know what to do yet.
Yes, it's a great option. It's not, a highly advanced CRM, which is perfect for many, many organizations. And as I mentioned before, because it's a subscription model, you're not locked in for 2 years. So if you, grow in this next year and a half, 2 years, great. That's what we want. We want you guys to continue to advance and build capacity. And that might also be transitioning, away from the CRM in a couple years. And so that's why we built that pricing model in a way not to keep you, but to support you. So yeah, Heather, I'll follow up with you directly so we can make sure to make that meeting happen. And for anybody else, please feel free to email me if any of these kind of questions bubble up that I can help you with.
Awesome, thank you.
That's great, Heather. Thank you so much for sharing with us. And Yeah, good luck with Squarespace as you continue to use the platform. I've used Squarespace a few times with clients. I know that it's got a lot of great features and tools. I know it's also very focused around sort of retail and selling and stores and very sort of commercially oriented. So hopefully you can find a way to make it work for you as a nonprofit with all the tools that you need. But I've often liked the fact that it's very sort of user friendly and has a lot of sort of, templates that you can adapt really easily. So hopefully that continues to work for you. So
Yeah, thank you.
thanks for sharing. That's terrific. Let's see, Allison Kalich with WeCycle. I think you're on the call with us today.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, and you're on WordPress. So I'm sure people will be like, someone's still on WordPress. Tell us what you think about that. And then also with MailChimp, your Salesforce impressive, and also migrating to Salesforce more generally. So I think you've got an interesting profile. So yeah, please join us on air and tell us a little bit more about it.
Yeah. So yes, we have WordPress for our website. We just went through a rebrand last summer and redid our whole website with a company and stayed on WordPress. I don't know anything different besides WordPress, and so I feel like it works for us. So I haven't had really, I can't compare it to somewhere else to say that it's easier, but for the most part, it seems to be working for us. Let's see, and then we do use MailChimp. And then, yeah, so we have a warehouse and we use Salesforce for our volunteer and our warehouse management. And so we want to also get our donor management into Salesforce as well, so we can see volunteers and donors together in the same platform. So yeah, we've been working on that migration, building out the Salesforce donor management part right now. And it's been a little kind of tricky for me. I'm not super used to Salesforce. And so it's just like kind of a different way to think than the program that we're using right now. Yeah, so last week I connected with Juliana, and we're going to meet next week to kind of see they're on Salesforce. And so I'm just kind of interested, yeah, to see what she has to say about being on Salesforce.
Yeah, that's interesting, Allison. With regard to working on Salesforce over the last few years, and it sounds like you use it also for warehousing and some other things as well. Have you had a partner that you've worked with, like a technical partner that's a Salesforce developer, to help you through some of that?
Yes, so we have a volunteer who works for Salesforce, but then he does volunteer for us to help build out different parts of our Salesforce. He did not have the capacity to do the donor management side of it, so we are contracting with a company to help us create that. But yes, so they're kind of building that for us. And some of it is just like we've been a little slow in the testing process to figure things out. There's a lot going on. So yeah, but it's definitely been at least 6 months of trying to get it going, and we're still not there yet.
Gotcha. No, I'm aware that those things can take a while. I'm glad to hear that you have support from a Salesforce volunteer person. And yeah, sometimes you have to bring in, some paid contractor experts to help you do some of the heavy lifting. So glad you're finding the right people to help you succeed there. Well, great.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, we'll look forward to hearing updates from you down the road. And yes, thank you for some of those posts. I also love your website. I mean, I think you've done a terrific job on your WordPress site. It's really a wonderful ease of use. So that's great. Let's see, Tessa, I'm wondering if you're on the call today. Did not see your name on the list. So I think we're going to miss you. So maybe we'll skip over for another time. And I know you were using Hootsuite, and you had been with Blueberry. Anyway, we're going to miss you today, so we'll catch up with you another time. Joel, however, I see you there with your very fancy hat. That sounds great. I've been admiring it for the last couple of calls with Edgewater Collective, also on WordPress, Constant Contact, and working with Catchafire to set up Salesforce. So why don't you join us on air and tell us a little bit about your experience with some of these tools?
Yeah, so I'm a little dangerous in the technology field in that I'm a generalist. And so I like to play around with these solutions. So we do use WordPress. We've used that for about 11 years, played around with different themes. I just like that I can customize the different things within WordPress. It's been really easy to get the embeddable form from Colorado Gives onto our site. We host with HostGator, and they use Constant Contacts. We've linked up with that. And right now we've signed on with somebody through Catchafire to set up Salesforce. Two main reasons why you were using Salesforce. One is we got free usage of that platform through TechSoup, and then also Salesforce brings all of our donations from Colorado Gives platform into Salesforce. So our goal is to really use Salesforce to kind of, in a tech way, keep up relationships with both donors and with volunteers. So we've never had a CRM, but now we have staff that understand Salesforce. So it's kind of our next level to dive into kind of the Salesforce platform.
That's terrific. And can you tell us a little bit also about how Salesforce is integrated with Constant Contact in terms of being able to send email to your constituents and others? How does that work together?
Yeah, so that's something we really want to build out with the Catchafire partner, is really allowing the technology to send welcome emails to folks when they sign up with Constant Contact, so that we don't have to manage all of that. And so that's our hope, is to really use Salesforce in that way to send out reminders, thank yous to donors, kind of managing that whole system through technology.
That's great. And I'm assuming that same concept applies for the Colorado Gives tools, right? If someone makes a donation on your Colorado Gives page, you want that to be able to flow directly into Salesforce and create a donor record and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah, and we're a really small staff. And so anytime we can really use technology well so that we can really focus on our mission work is a win-win.
That sounds terrific. Well, good. Well, wishing you continuing success with the development of Salesforce as a mean to help you with your data management and constituent management. So we'll look forward to hearing from you as time goes on. We're actually at the end of this section. Before we just go to the next page, and I'm just being mindful of time, just want to see if there's anybody else on the call who wanted to share. There's a couple of other names that I recognize here. I just want to give you, if someone wants to jump in and talk a little bit about something that they're dealing with their systems, tools, platforms. Does anybody else want to join us on air to do that? All right. I will take that as a not right now, but that's all good. Let's see. I wanted to also, I know that you had a question for us earlier, Juliana, where you were sort of asking people, just to the group, how people have selected platforms or assessing whether to stick with a platform versus switching as the organization evolves. I mean, that's like a super excellent question that I think, every organization is constantly struggling with. And hearing your stories from today, it's clear that that's something that you're all, just trying to evolve with as time goes on. I wanted to mention this recently published tool from us at Firefly Partners, which is this MarTech marketing technology audit template that they make available for free, which is really designed to help you kind of think through the process of selecting tools, using your existing tools. It doesn't directly include the Colorado Gives tool set as part of it. However, it includes a bunch of other tools that we've talked about today. In fact, it probably mentions most of them that are in the mix here. From my vantage point, it's just super interesting to hear, your stories of sort of like how you ended up on a tool, or and certainly typically, people want to do more. They want to integrate the things together. They want to simplify. Sometimes they want to save money. I mean, it really can be any number of reasons why people want to make those changes. But Juliana, did you want to maybe join us on air for a second? I'm curious what moved you to ask that question as you think about your experience with technology.
I think probably lots of people on this call have heard me mention that we've like fully switched over to the full Salesforce suite right before I started working with the organization that I'm with. So I didn't have any choice on that and had to sort of adopt as we went along. But as Salesforce sunsetted their donation management platform, and we've been on Gives, just sort of assessing really what's been working for us, what's not been working for us, how to, figuring out what are my priorities for what I need to do, what's working and what's not working in a way that might be different from another organization. It's like easy to find. So there's so much information online. A lot of it, promotional materials that those platforms themselves are putting out. And so how to kind of suss that out from what's unique about my organization and my needs, how to kind of hone in on those details. Like, how do I figure out what works well for somebody else that might not work well for me and why? I don't know if that was articulate or not, but just sort of as I've been getting to know a new platform that's been new for everybody in my organization, and kind of wonder, we're having tons of issues with our WordPress website. So there's also that just kind of understanding,
Right.
Okay, what do I need to understand about our website before we make a decision about whether to stick with it or move on? Like even just getting to that point of understanding what's working and what's not working. So I feel like that was sort of word vomity, but there's just so many ways to approach the question and so much information to digest. So figuring out how to do that efficiently and not take a plunge before really having enough information.
Yeah, no, that was really well articulated. I think, hopefully within this process of these classes, there's been resources that are available to you. I do think that the Colorado Gives series of platforms and tools, is obviously a great resource. You've got, help from Catchafire. This Firefly Partners audit template is also designed to help you, think through the tools that you have. And then also just, hopefully the sharing that goes on among the members here gives you insights and resources to learn what other people are doing. So I don't know, Jordan, if you want to add anything into that about Colorado Gives, or just any other thoughts about tools.
Yeah, gosh. Yeah, it's a challenge always. And I'm talking with nonprofits all day, every day, just about exactly this. Like, okay, we're coming out of COVID. We had kind of a rush to adopt a lot of digital tools to help us during that time. And so a lot of nonprofits are coming out of that phase and really looking strategically into what do my next 3 years look like, and how can I streamline my technology and also, honor my budget, get the most out of the donations coming through. And a lot of folks are leaning towards some of the more efficient and free tools out there, some of which we've talked about. And a lot of them are driving donations through Colorado Gives, just based solely on the pricing model and multiple payment options available. I think the exciting thing about this is because of COVID, we are all now in a similar place where before COVID, I think it was really across the board, different levels of expertise. Now we're all really aligned and looking at the same data points and understanding what we all need to achieve in the nonprofit community. So I'm just really excited for this conversation, for all of these tools that we've shared, and to help you guys if you need it one-on-one to talk through any of these details, because it is a lot. It's a lot to decide for your organization. So just thank you all for sharing and providing some context as far as what you guys are working on.
Perfect. Thank you for that. We're almost at our time. I just wanted to also preview what's coming up in April. So we have our live class followed by learning class on the 9th and the 23rd. And our topic is going to be fundraising strategies for growth. You can see on the screen here some of the topics we'll be talking about. A little bit of a revisit of some things we did before, but in a little bit more depth and approached in a slightly different way. Retaining and renewing donors, reactivating lapsed donors, mid-level giving programs, email segmentations, calls to action, finding business partners. So around the area of sort of growing your donor community, and different ways to do that. And we'll make sure that we've got material for you to help you do some thinking in the live class on April the 9th. And then also on April 23rd, we'll do one of our learning labs with some sharing. And then also just a reminder again that one-on-one consultations are available with me on any of the topics in the course. And so feel free to reach out to me via email. And before we close, I'm noticing a couple of comments in the chat. So Susan Wertman is asking about if anybody has any experience with FrontStream. So if folks can look at that. And then a good comment also from Heather, thank you so much for that. Just again, thinking about, the decisions that you've made as an organization in terms of your capacity and what motivated you to update in your site. So thank you for that.
And I actually, in a past life, did use FrontStream. I used it more from a software sales perspective, though. So that's my familiarity with it. So Susan, if you want to talk FrontStream, I'm happy to do it. Before we hop off the call today, I did want to really ask everybody, if you have the time, we have paid for these consulting hours for you. So please reach out to Michael to really chat about anything related to these topics that we've brought up through course 2. And lastly, just before we hop off this call, just wanted to let folks know that for the last couple of sessions, I'm going to be inviting everybody today. So don't freak out, but you're going to get a couple of Zooms in your inbox. And just thank you all for spending some time with us here. This has been great. And thank you, Michael.
Thanks, everybody. We'll see you again on April the 9th. Have a great week.